insurance that they are writing, they are going out and purchasing what's known as reinsurance. And that usually varies between 20 and 50% of their overall premium written book. Now, where it becomes challenging for the consumers is that there is literally a handful of reinsurance carriers on a global scale. It's between 8 and 10 that most of the insurance carriers are using, have it be on the commercial or the personal line side. So what that means is when massive losses happen, the big Texas freeze that occurred in early 2021, for example, whether it is the homeowners that are getting paid their losses or the commercial entities that are getting paid their losses, the majority of those losses are still trickling through the same handful of reinsurance carriers, and those reinsurance carriers are on the hook for a large portion of those lost claim dollars that are being paid out. Now, the reason why that is important is, as I move on to the next slide, just to give you a little bit of history dating back to 2001, this is the global insurance market's loss ratio. Now, as you can see, for example, if we look at 2001, 9/11 happened in that year. For every dollar of premium that the insurance carriers were taking in, they were paying out $1.16. Now, a profitable year is considered mid to low 90s. The insurance industry has not been in the 80s from a loss ratio perspective since it's been decades, probably even before I was born. Now, the reason why this is important is if we look at 2010 on, the insurance industry has taken a loss or made very little profit over this timeline, which at the end of the day means in order for them to potentially make a profit, they have to continue increasing rates and premiums down to the consumers. Now, I know that over the last couple of years, particularly the last two, we've all felt significant increases in premium dollars that we are being charged, again, whether it's homeowners or commercial insurance. The chart that you see on screen right now shows where premium volume was dating all the way back to the early 70s. Now, while we have felt relatively steep increases over the last 2 to 3 years particularly, as you can see from a premium perspective, the insurance carriers are still collecting much less premium than they did in the 1975 to 78 hard market, the 84 to 87 hard market, and the early 2000s. Now, there was a bit of a spike up in 17 and 18, and then it dipped back down, and now we're seeing it trend back up. The slide that you see in front of you right now is just a sample of where we are seeing the majority of the increases overall in the insurance market. Cyber and umbrella being the two steepest, commercial property being the fourth steepest. But the important piece here is that these increases are based on a clean account is an account that has not had a loss or very minimal losses over the past 5 to 10 years. So key takeaways from this section is in California, and we'll dive into California a bit more in the next couple of minutes, but California has a unique set of challenges. Underwriters are scrutinizing information. Data is more important than it ever has been. The combined ratio for the insurance industry as a whole is still very close to the 100 figure, which is leading to additional underwriting pressures internally. And that trickles down to you as consumers, and we're seeing costs increase. And despite the increases that we've seen over the last couple of years, the market's still well below where it historically has been and it likes to be from a premium volume perspective. So it's what we call a hard market. Now, the slide you see in front of you right now is the amount of money in billions that the industry has paid out going back to 1980. Now, the important takeaway on this slide is the black line that you see going across. That is the inflation number. So compared to the inflation number, when we look at 2001, where 37 billion was paid out, 05, 79 billion, 17, where we had what we call Harvey, Irma, and Maria, 104 billion. From a trend perspective, the losses are getting larger, and they're happening with a lot more frequency. It's far surpassing inflation overall. This is just a snapshot of the last couple of years, so that you can kind of see the same information as the previous slide, how much money in billions have been paid out by the insurance industry as a whole. Now, the slide you see here is some of the natural catastrophic events that have impacted the insurance industry in the U.S. alone. Whether it's hurricanes, flooding in Louisiana, but the big piece is the wildfires that have hit the entire West Coast. And when we look at the West Coast, the real scary and resounding fact is that 7 of the top 10 largest fires in California history have happened since 2020. And 12 of the largest 20 wildfires in California history have happened since 2018. At the end of the day, wildfires are becoming much more of the norm for us in California, and very different than flooding and earthquake. There is no modeling metrics that provide decades of data for the insurance carriers, the actuaries, and the analytics folks to be able to properly predict what the right pricing point is and how often from a frequency these things can happen. Just a quick slide of where we're at in 2021. As of September of 2021, there were 9 active wildfires happening in California. As of September, there were 7,618 wildfires overall that had impacted more than 2.4 million acres. What that ultimately means for you, not only as individual homeowners, but also as a municipality with a potential wildfire exposure, is data. Catastrophic events are occurring with greater intensity. The insurance markets are reacting to this, and they are increasing pricing, but also trying to come up with risk modeling tools to help them understand what the impacts of potential climate change are, how it's worsened, and predictive analytics to see where it could potentially go. Now, the irony is we've been in a drought. There's a lot of dry fuel out there. It burns. Then we get some rain, which causes vegetation to grow, providing more fuel for the next drought or the next wildfire season. So it's a challenge for everyone in general. But as we look at the future, not only from a commercial perspective, but as individual homeowners, here's some valuable information that we believe will be helpful to you guys to get the best deal out there that's possible for everyone, and the fairest. Now, everyone is going to experience an increase. Now whether that increase is in the 5% range or the 25% range, there are some things that we can individually do to potentially minimize that. Now, one of them being carriers are scrutinizing the data that we're submitting. So we need to make sure that all of the data, including the COPE information, which is construction, occupancy, protection, and exposure, is accurate. What is the building made of? Accurate dates of construction, accurate dates of upgrades, and the environment. Now, what I mean by the environment is where we have been very successful in placing insurance at lower increases than most is provide any additional data that you can. Has there been a defensible space created around the home or around the building? Studies have shown that the creation of a defensible space, some sort of barrier or some distance between the vegetation and the actual structure does prove to lessen the damage to the actual structure. The values that are being reported, there's nothing that carriers pull their hair out on the most than charging a premium for what they're told is a $2 million building, and then the building burns down and they find out that in actuality it was a $4 or a $5 million building. So appraisals are key, making sure that the right price per square foot is being reported, because that not only gives long-term credibility, but it also helps give validity to the data that you are submitting. Another thing that we are starting to see is exclusions be applied to these policies. What I've seen on some of my larger commercial accounts that are very wildfire exposed is twofold. Carriers are either beginning to exclude wildfire risk, or they are beginning to add a significantly higher wildfire-specific deductible, or what's known in the larger commercial industry as retentions. What that means is an entity or a building could have a $25,000 deductible, but the deductible for wildfire could be $250,000 or $500,000. So that's something to definitely prepare for. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. From a loss ratio perspective, it appears that the knee-jerk reactions that the insurance industry has done over the last couple of years will allow the markets to actually turn a profit this year, barring any additional incidents occurring between now and whenever your own individual insurance policies renew. What that means is that we will probably see a slow stabilization of the market, where we have seen increases in the 15 and 20% range, single-digit rate increases, and hopefully in the next 2 to 3 years we'll start seeing flat renewals. But overall, the quality of the data is the most important piece and the most important message that I can deliver to you guys is what is being provided to the insurance companies should definitely be accurate, and it's always better to provide more information even if it's not asked for. The defensible space piece is critical, and it's becoming ever more important. I was telling folks the same thing right around this time last year. Early January 2021 renewals were relatively moderate, and then we experienced the big Texas freeze, which was a loss in the billions to the insurance industry, and then they went right back to where they had been in June and July of the prior year. So that's why I say, barring any major incident occurring over the next 6 months, hopefully we will definitely start seeing some stabilization. Now, over the next 18 months, or the past 18 months have been a wild ride. Looking forward next 12 to 18 months, the insurance industry is definitely in a strong financial position. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they won't continue increasing rates to continue padding their coffers to ensure that there is enough funds to pay the claims. California overall is still experiencing a lot of risk. When the first wildfire in Santa Rosa happened in 2017, that was viewed as an anomaly. When we had 2-3 wildfires in 2018, that was concerning, but the insurance carriers were like, well, it just cannot continue happening over the next 3 to 4 years. Here we are 3 years later, it's still happening. I think it's part of our norm now, and we should be prepared for anything that the insurance market may throw at us, including the increased retentions or fully excluding wildfire risk and us needing to start exploring the California FAIR Plan for that type of coverage, which if anybody's ever gone to the FAIR Plan, it's incredibly expensive and very limited in coverage. So fingers crossed and knock on wood that we do not have to go that route. I will also say that accounts or individuals that have had a number of losses over the last couple of years will definitely experience increases that are significantly higher than their counterparts that have not had as many losses. So, the insurance industry views it in two forms. There's frequency and then there's severity, right? And the problem over the last couple of years is that we're experiencing severe claims with a lot more frequency than we have had in the past. So, a little bit of doom and gloom, but I am happy to answer any questions that any of you may have. My contact information is on the screen, and Mike knows how to get in contact with me as well. So if you have any questions in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out to me.
Any questions? I don't have any comments. No, that was a lot of information, and it's like a review of what we've been seeing in the news for the past several years, but from an insurance perspective, it doesn't look very optimistic for insurance costs for both homeowners and municipalities. But and thank you very much.
No problem. It definitely, it's a tough time, and you guys have been hearing it a lot. Again, there's some cautious optimism that the increases that we have seen over the last couple of years, and hopefully with less severity type of events, it's going to start stabilizing. It has to stabilize at some point. Now, does that mean that it's going to happen in the next 6 to 9 months? Unlikely. In the next 12 to 18, likely. But again, that's on wood, that don't have any major catastrophic kind of event, not only on a global scale, but in California. But in terms of the city of Avalon, I work very closely with folks that run your joint power authority. We are already working on the July 1 renewal. As I mentioned, I definitely do believe and have seen, any defensible space that can be created around either a home or a commercial building makes the carriers feel a lot more comfortable. So please talk to your brokers. Please share that information with them, even if they don't ask you. It will help in the long term. And with that, I wish you all a happy holidays.
I do have one final question.
Go ahead. Yes.
Or one question, and that is, I think some insurance providers are leaving the state of California completely. And I got a notice, business insurance coverage, and I've heard a couple other people basically say the same thing, that their company's leaving. Is that a trend? Are other companies going to backfill, or is that even a reality besides just a one-off?
So it is occurring, not at a very alarming rate yet, right? Most of the carriers that are leaving the state of California are carriers that are not domiciled in the state of California, right? And what that means is they may have started writing business in California 5, 6, 7 years ago because of premium dollars. And unfortunately, in some of those cases, they've been hit relatively hard in terms of claims. So they are leaving the market, or the California market, before they end up having to pay out so much in claims that they end up going under. It is happening. It's very industry specific. For business owners, for example, the equine industry, they're having a very tough time where insurance carriers are leaving. But it's not something where, as an insurance broker, I'm worried about not being able to get coverage for my clients at this point.
Thank you. And thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. You all have a great holiday season, and hopefully I'll get an opportunity to chat with you guys again next year.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Bye, everyone.
And before we move to the next item of agenda, just for the record, because I know we were having some technical issues, I was wondering if we could get Rocio to just read back what the decision was for each of the consent items on the vote, just so we can make sure we capture that, and then we'll move right into the other. So on the item of the consent calendar minutes.
Consent items are recommended actions, the approval of actions for the November 17th, 2021 regular Planning Commission meeting. Did you want me to also provide the voting?
Just what the record of vote was on that item.
My apologies to interrupt, it's Isaac. I think we got logged out actually when Rob left the Zoom, so my apologies, but I'm back on, and it sounds like we're moving back to consent now that the audio and video is working. Is that correct?
We were just going back to re-review what the vote was on that, just to make sure it got recorded into everything.
Okay, and just a point of clarification, was the phone line open during consent calendar for members to dial in?
It was.
Okay, great. Yeah, if we can just state on the record the vote for the approval of the consent calendar, that'd be great.
For the minutes and both the resolutions, Resolution 2135 was the resolution of an application for a conditional use permit, revised site plan, and height variance to construct a cafe on the existing field dock located at 2 Casino Way. Also including Resolution 2135 was an application for a site plan to remodel a 3-story property. The first floor will be including additional square footage as a proposal. It is to only move interior walls. The second story proposes to add 170 square feet of living space and an additional 180 square feet for a deck, both within the existing footprint. The third floor proposes to add a bedroom, 190 square feet to a living space, and a 110 square foot deck within the existing footprints. For both the motion and the resolutions, we had Commissioner Kennedy make the motion and Commissioner say second. All ayes. And then the fourth item was the finding to continue to hold remote teleconference virtual planning commission meetings pursuant to Assembly Bill 361. That was moved by Commissioner Smith and second by Commissioner Say.
And all ayes, correct?
Yes, all ayes.
So the next item, item number 1 under general business, is a public hearing for to review the annual growth policy as required by the Avalon Municipal Code, section 9-12.102, and to adopt a resolution recommending adoption by the City Council regarding the effects and demands of development permitted in the city over the preceding 12 months. So just some quick background. The municipal code stipulates that the City Council, in collaboration with the Planning Commission, shall review the growth permitted in the preceding 10 months. And the way we define the 10 months, this is January through October, to review the effects and demands of such development and any additional development on the city's natural resources, and then to determine by resolution the amount and type of growth the city will permit in the succeeding year, as well as city priorities for growth. Summary of development activity that occurred from January through October of 2021 has been calculated and is included in the attached Exhibit A as part of your council agenda packet, as well as the attached resolution, which is recommending the adoption of the city's annual growth policy for the fiscal year, or calendar year rather, 2022. The summary includes development activity for November and December. That's included just as reference, so you can see what the totality of growth was for the entire calendar year. Edison has notified just like in subsequent years, that it is no longer in any stage of water rationing. However, in order to accurately gauge the safe annual yield, they have not been issuing many, if any at all, freshwater allocations to projects on their waiting list until further testing and a recalculation of their safe annual yield has been finalized. The growth policy is very similar to what has been recommended in previous years. This would allow the same type of development, but has been modified to provide that almost all require confirmation from Edison that there is indeed adequate fresh water available. The one major adjustment from previous years to this year's was that one of the things that we had added as part of a code change was that ADUs and JEDUs are not allowed to be built unless water allocation has been determined by Edison, and that is something that we had quite a lengthy discussion on when we were proposing the code changes for that. There's nothing in the code that would allow them to move forward without a water allocation, and we made sure that it just got reiterated into the municipal code. So the proposed policy does not constitute a project within the meaning of the state CEQA guidelines for section 15378. Specifically, the adoption of the resolution is exempt from CEQA pursuant to section 15061B3, as CEQA only applies to projects which have the potential for causing a significant effect on the environment. The policy does not approve any new project, but it does establish a policy for allowed growth. The recommendation before you is that staff recommends the Planning Commission adopt Resolution 2136, recommending City Council at their January 4th meeting adopt the proposed growth policy for 2022. That is all I've got, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions before we open the public hearing?
Did Edison indicate when they were going to conclude this safe annual yield study?
No, I have not received. It's been delayed for a number of outside factors. COVID was kind of one of the primary, and then they've been working with the CPUC to get that finalized and approved.
I thought the report came out a while ago, before COVID.
They had drafted a report, but my understanding is it was never formally adopted or approved.
I had also heard they had to redo it 2 or 3 times and the yield's going up.
So so we still haven't gotten the report, well, the findings, correct?
Say that again?
We still haven't received the findings on, at the end of the day, what is available and...
Not yet.
So that was, I think that was done right after we got out of our water rationing, and we had an abundance amount of water, and now we're kind of going back into no water. So, I mean, how is that? It's kind of strange to me. How is that accurate? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're waiting for them to release water.
I can't speak to where they're at in terms of their allocations. I can only respond to what policy documents are and what historically they've been. We still have a wait list, unfortunately, and that is attached as part of your packet for potential growth, but right now we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
And so this is the current wait list, and like I was asking Eric, some of these I do recognize that we had voted on already. I think we approved a couple of them. So does that just, it's just on there, like they're taking that risk of not getting a water allocation?
So the entitlements that were granted were the ones that were they already either had a determination that no water allocation was needed, or that they received a water allocation In some situations, water allocations are granted because the property owner had previously applied for it or had already received it, but was able to work with Edison to show reduction and essentially get a credit to transfer over to a different project. So those were already the ones that were approved, but there is a separate wait list for those projects that Edison has determined that there is no water to allocate at this time. And if applicants wish to continue to keep them, those won't come to the Planning Commission until a determination has been found that water is now available.
Thank you. Any more questions to staff before we open the public hearing? Seeing none, I'll open the hearing. Anybody wish to testify or provide information? Anybody on the...
I have no comments.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. Do I hear a motion or general discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution number 2136, our 2022 growth policy for the fiscal year 2022.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion to approve. It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion before we vote? Okay, seeing none. Lucia?
Commissioner Kennedy?
Yes?
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Chairman Hewitt?
Yes?
Commissioner Say?
Yes.
Commissioner Putnam?
Yes.
And Vice Chairman Glass?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Okay, items of discussion. Planning Director?
I have no updates.
Would you like to make an announcement in case?
I will make an announcement, though, yes. This will actually be my last Planning Commission meeting. We will, Denise and I will be working to have a succession plan in place. I've accepted a position with a different city and will be moving on come January. But I do appreciate my time here, and I've really enjoyed working with all of you as well as the community, and I will sorely miss this community.
Thank you. Well, thanks for your efforts and all your hard work.
Isaac, do you have anything?
I do not. Happy holidays to everyone.
Okay. Commissioners?
Happy holidays.
Yeah. Excellent.
Did we get any applications for the seat that is available?
I do not believe we have. I'm working right now with the city manager. The city council will be hopefully making a director appointment soon.
I think they know it's such a rigorous process to get put on here that people are shy to apply. Okay, so no commissioner business, no one from the audience. Happy holidays. Have a good, safe New Year. Meeting adjourned.
Good night,
Tony.